Mary Tudor and the Wyatt Rebellion. During the early 1500s in England, there has been conflict when determining whether Catholicism or Protestantism is the true faith. There has always been debate about this, and this debate took a turn when Queen Mary took the throne. Mary believed Catholicism was the true faith, so she made Catholicism England's faith and made law stating Protestantism was now illegal. The Protestant citizens were appalled when this change had happened, and were even more appalled when Mary decided to marry a Catholic king. This caused the Wyatt Rebellion of 1554 to happen, which caused an upstir in England, yet the rebellion was a failure due to Mary's uncompromising attitude, and the outcome caused even more harm. Luckily, when Mary passed away, her half-sister Elizabeth took the throne and restored peace onto England. Although a failure, the Wyatt Rebellion was a crucial part in making England the wonderful place it is today. On February 18, 1516, Mary Tudor was born. She was the daughter of Henry VIII, the King of England at the time, and Catherine of Aragon, Mary's mother and Henry's first wife. Throughout Mary's childhood, she was close to her mother Catherine. They bonded over music, discussions, and most importantly, the Catholic beliefs. At the time, the majority of England was under the Roman Catholic faith, so Catherine believed it was a necessity for her daughter Mary to fully understand Catholicism. While Mary and Catherine were bonding, Henry VIII had a problem. The once wonderful marriage he had with Catherine was slowly perishing, mainly because she had given him a daughter when he wanted a son. Henry wanted to divorce Catherine and instead marry a woman named Anne Boleyn. Although the issue with this is, because England followed Catholicism, by the rules of the church, divorce was not allowed. It was thought that once you devoted yourself to someone and get married, the marriage would last forever. Since these were the rules of the church, the Pope would not allow Henry to divorce Catherine, regardless if he was king or not. Henry was frustrated by this, so he decided England would no longer follow the Roman Catholic Church, but would instead follow the Church of England. A new faith was established, and the faith was now Protestantism. Henry created the Church of England himself, proclaimed himself the head of the church, and made a rule stating that divorce was allowed. Henry then divorced Catherine and married Anne. England was now Protestant, Henry had a new wife, and Mary had lost her mother. Henry and Anne soon had a child named Elizabeth, who was born on September 7, 1533. With Elizabeth now in the palace, all of the respect Mary had shifted and was given to Elizabeth. Mary envied her half-sister because while she was getting neglected and humiliated, Elizabeth was receiving affection and respect. This is because Henry deemed Mary illegitimate, since this was the daughter of his divorced wife, therefore he didn't care about her. Henry would threaten and poke fun at Mary, mainly for her Catholic beliefs. Since Henry established Protestantism into England and now identified as a Protestant, he found Mary's Catholic beliefs stupid. To further the humiliation, Mary had lost her title as Princess Mary and was now referred to as the Lady Mary. The worst thing Henry had done to Mary was not allowing her to attend her own mother's funeral. Mary was filled with complete dread and hated her father. Mary began clinging on to Catholicism as a coping mechanism. Henry soon executed Anne, for she was accused of committing adultery, and Elizabeth was devastated. Henry married Jane Seymour in May 30, 1536, and on October 12, 1537, their son was named Edward VI. The Act of Succession was created to figure out when each child would rule. Edward was first, secondly Mary, and finally Elizabeth. Edward was made king when he was 9 and was given regnants to help him rule. Henry soon passed away on January 28, 1547, and was buried with his wife Jane, who died 10 days after giving birth. Before passing, Henry asked Edward to keep England Protestant, and he obeyed his wishes. The citizens remained Protestant at this time, while Mary didn't. Trying to obey his father's wishes, he sent letters to Mary attempting to convince her to follow Protestantism. She refused every time, and the young king soon died at the age of 15 on July 6, 1553. After his death, it was finally time for Mary to take the throne, the one thing she truly desired. Mary was made queen in 1553. In the beginning of her reign, she created the Act of Repeal, which voids all religious actions made by Edward during his reign. After this, she changed Protestant churches into Catholic ones. Since England was still Protestant after Edward's death, the religious changes came as a shock to many. Mary then began thinking ahead. The Act of Succession states Elizabeth would rule after her, which wasn't good. Mary wanted a Catholic to rule when she was gone, not a Protestant. The only way Elizabeth wouldn't take the throne is if Mary had children, but she would need a husband. Mary spoke to Charles V about any possible suitors, and he suggested the King of Spain, Philip. Mary wanted to marry Philip because it was a powerful Catholic man. When Philip found out Mary's interest in him, he thought Mary was unattractive and old, yet he agreed to the marriage only for the political advantages he'll have over England. Philip arrived to England to meet Mary on July 19, 1554. Their first meeting went well, so Mary had the wedding ceremony at Winchester Cathedral on July 25, 1554. The public response was not good. Mary had already made Catholic changes to England's previously Protestant land, and now she wanted a Catholic king. Sir Wyatt the Younger and 3 other men, named Sir James Croft, Sir Peter Carl, and Henry Gifford, Duke of Suffolk, decided to create a rebellion to end the marriage of Mary and Philip. Since Wyatt came up with the idea of a rebellion first, it was named after him. The purpose of the rebellion was to remove Mary, make Elizabeth queen, and arrange for her to marry Edward Courtenay, which would ensure England stays Protestant. Sadly, Croft gave up in the rebellion due to fear, but the rebellion began without him. Wyatt went to Kent while Carl and Duke went to Hertfordshire and Leicestershire. They would gather a following in each area and then combine together. Soon they got a following of an estimated 3,000 people, and they marched to confront Mary. Lord Chandler arrested Edward on suspicion of a plot, and he revealed that there was indeed a rebellion. Queen Mary was informed, and she imprisoned Elizabeth for alleged involvement in the rebellion. Refusing to compromise with Wyatt's motives, she marched with her 500 troops to stop Wyatt, and when she met with Wyatt, he felt intimidated and surrendered. Mary decided that if those who took part in the rebellion did not leave England in 24 hours, those people would be punished, although Mary did not give Wyatt, Duke, or Carl time to escape. All 3 of the men and those who did not escape in time were imprisoned. When imprisoned, Wyatt was sent to court and questioned as to why he began the rebellion. He replied by saying, "To prevent us from being overrun by strangers." He was found guilty and was executed on April 11, 1554. Duke was also soon executed, while Carl was somehow able to escape the prison but later died of illness. As for Wyatt's men who didn't escape on time, they were hanged, drawn, and quartered. Finally, it was time to confront Elizabeth, who on multiple occasions wrote letters to Mary explaining she had no involvement in the rebellion. In her tied letter she wrote, "I humbly crave to speak with your highness, which I would not be so bold to desire if I know not myself most clear as I know most true." There wasn't enough evidence that Elizabeth was involved in the rebellion, so she was set free from prison. Mary began to feel furious. The rebellion had made her lose focus on her one true objective, to restore Catholicism into England. If anything, the rebellion caused Mary to hate Protestants even more, and she wanted to get rid of them. Mary then made laws stating that Protestantism was now illegal, and the one religion that would be followed throughout England would be Catholicism. Most citizens were completely shocked about this religious change. They couldn't even follow the religion they wanted to. Some citizens continued to follow Protestantism even though it was illegal, so Mary and Philip had a punishment for them.
Of their gracious majesties, Queen Mary and King Philip, we are come to witness the burning of these Protestant heretics. God bless you, Master Ridley! Love of God! Friends, help me! I burn too slowly!
Thus was the beginning of the burning of Protestants. Because of this, Mary was given the nickname Bloody Mary. Knowing she would die soon, Mary begged Elizabeth to continue ruling England under Catholicism. Mary died childless on November 17, 1558. Elizabeth was made queen on November 17, 1558. Elizabeth had witnessed how Mary's desperation had brought much chaos into the people of England, so she decided to rule England differently from her. Elizabeth is known today as one of the greatest monarchs of England, mainly because of her change to religion. Elizabeth had made the Elizabethan religious settlement, which was created as a response to the religious divide between Catholics and Protestants, and the conflict that came with it. Elizabeth had always thought of the debate between the true religion foolish because she thought of Catholicism and Protestantism to both be under Christianity. An impact of the settlement is that churches would now cater for both Protestants and Catholics, those churches being called Anglicanism, and these churches are still around today. Eventually, the citizens of England leaned towards Protestant beliefs, most likely because of Mary's violent enforcement of Catholicism. England is still mainly Protestant to this day, and its citizens are currently able to follow whatever religion you want without consequence. Since Queen Elizabeth never had children, when she died on November 17, 1558, that was the end of the Tudor and Elizabethan era. Much conflict had happened during Mary's reign, most notably the Wyatt Rebellion. Although a failure, much conflict arose during the rebellion and even after Mary refused to compromise with their motives. Since the rebellion leaders were Protestant, this made Mary hate Protestants even more and caused her to create laws stating Protestant acts and teachings were illegal. Some people continued to follow Protestantism, and these people were burned on the stake. When Mary died, the state of England was terrible and the atmosphere was filled with complete dread. Elizabeth saw this and created the Elizabethan religious settlement, which restored peace among England and continues to impact us to this day. What we can learn from this is that, although the Wyatt Rebellion was a failure, it was a crucial event that made England the wonderful place it is today.